Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Nastos. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Maison Market. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the Premium and FASHIONTECH teams for inviting me to speak with you this afternoon. A little bit about myself. I am a member of Cornell University's Advisory Council on Entrepreneurship, and I also am a business mentor to the CFDA's Fashion Incubator program, working with emerging designers. Cool. So I wanted to provide a bit of additional context as to our business. So I included a list of select clients. For those of you who aren't familiar with the businesses outlined here, we work with both multi-brand retailers as well as collections, primarily within the contemporary and designer space, so working with higher average order value product. So today I'm going to be talking with you all about the kind of evolving digital landscape and channel landscape for digital marketing. Essentially, if you have any kind of digital property or e-commerce online shop, what are the different channels that are going to be bringing traffic and sales to that, and how should you be allocating your resources? So the 2016 channel landscape is as expansive as it is bewildering. There is an incredible amount of channels, platforms, apps, and social networks for you to be active on. So trying to decide where to allocate your resources or where to have your team spending their time can be challenging, to say the least. Point in case, take Instagram. Instagram has undeniably been a transformative channel for the fashion industry. However, for those of you that are active on it, I'm sure you've noticed, right now they're kind of undergoing a transition under Facebook's leadership where they're displaying less and less organic content and more sponsored posts and paid content. So they're transitioning to that pay-to-play model, similar to kind of what Facebook has undergone. Now, what does that mean for you as a business? That means that your organic following is actually a depreciating asset. That's something that is actually going down in value. So making sure that your business objectives are aligned with the channels that you're active on is essential, because keep in mind, it's not just about what your business is doing, it's also about the direction that each one of these platforms is headed in. So to that point, in our work at Maison Market, we've identified one channel which kind of is head and shoulders above all others in its longevity, its staying power, its ability to drive conversions, and its just overall effectiveness in terms of helping drive your business objectives. And that channel is search. So search is something that is super easy for us to take for granted, right? We each conduct tens of searches a day. Search for many of us kind of functions as a personal assistant. But just for a moment, take into consideration the difference between kind of robotically opening up your Instagram feed and kind of passively going through your Facebook feed or anything like that versus actively seeking out something and searching for something. It's the difference between an active and a passive marketing channel. So to help me set the scene a little bit, I wanted to include a brief film clip from one of my favorite movies from this past year. It's from a movie called Ex Machina, and it's an American science fiction movie in which essentially an analog to the founder of Google, the founder of a search engine, uses the worldwide search results to create an artificial intelligence. So here's just a quick clip, hopefully from that movie.
There's the weird thing about search engines. It's like striking oil in a world that hadn't invented internal combustion. Too much raw material. Nobody knew what to do with it. You see, my competitors, they were fixated on sucking it up and monetizing via shopping and social media. They thought that search engines were a map of what people were thinking, but actually they were a map of how people were thinking. Impulse, response.
So, a bit dramatic, but I really love one of the quotes in that scene where he says, search doesn't just give us what people are searching for, it gives us how people are thinking. And take a moment to consider, in aggregate, everything that you search for and just how powerful it is to have access to that information. So search gives us everything from our intent to associations between different products and different brands, sentiment, so are people thinking about things positively or negatively, and most importantly, search gives us opt-in. When people search, they are reaching out. You're reaching them at a completely different point in the marketing channel than you are through other networks. So that is a differentiating factor which is incredibly, incredibly powerful. So with that said, search is, hopefully we've established and we could all agree that search is an important channel. But we'd be remiss if we kind of didn't begin to talk about where search is going, because as with all of these platforms and all of these technologies, it is far from done evolving. We are at the beginning stages of a really exciting new stage in the dissemination of information. So let's take a moment to kind of look at the trajectory for search. So for those of you that are old enough, you probably remember the very basic, like, initial Google search engine results page, primarily a text-based solution you would query, and it would provide you back with whatever its algorithm selected as the most relevant link. For the past several years, we've been kind of living in the era of rich search, where Google's actually getting a little bit more intimate and looking to just provide you with the information that you're looking for without even having to click on a link. However, we're actually at the period in time in which Google and other search engines are beginning to transition to their next stage. And I wanted to include a quote by Sergey Brin, which I think is very indicative to Google's thinking. My vision when we started Google 15 years ago was that eventually you wouldn't have to have a search query at all. So that kind of cues up the idea of Google's next evolution, and that is predictive search. So predictive search, essentially, to kind of explain what that means and what that's going to entail, Google already has all of our intent in the form of our search queries. Google also now, as well as a lot of these other networks, have our location, because we all pretty much have a personal tracking device on us at all times. And then in addition to that, they also have context, right? So everything from date and time to, like, what activities you participate in and where you're going and things that you do. So what is that going to look like, and what is that going to yield? Well, likely in a short period of time, what that's going to mean is that you could hypothetically have a Mother's Day brunch on this coming Sunday. You could be walking past a flower shop, and Google is actually going to preempt you and prompt you to go and purchase flowers. So that's kind of the world that we're going to be walking into. So what does that actually mean once you synthesize that and boil that down for the implications to your business? Because it's a very high and mighty idea, but what does that actually mean? Well, 2 recommendations based on that. Every business, in my opinion, needs to start tracking what are called branded search impressions. So essentially, an impression is the amount of times that your business comes up in the search engine results page. To make a brick and mortar analogy, it's the equivalent of, do you come up frequently or infrequently? Or, I'm sorry, are you on a busy street or a slow street is kind of the equivalent as to this metric, what that tells you. And in addition to that, it's super powerful because it allows you to quantify the previously unquantifiable. And here's what I mean by that. If you have a PR activation that you're working on or an influencer campaign, branded search impressions can tell you how your brand awareness is fluctuating. In addition to that, I recommend that you start structuring your marketing activations to drive towards search engines. And here's what I mean by that. To use a visualization, don't just think about doing a Facebook ad and having that drive clicks and conversions to your website. Think about how can you have all of these activations function with search engines as the centerpiece. So how do you drive search through social networks? Trying to consider that a funnel and have search engines function as the centerpiece. So just in summary, recommendations for preparing for the future of search: start tracking branded search impressions, have your digital marketing activations drive search, optimize mobile, since it's an incredibly important device and facet for all future digital marketing, and start to consider developing a rich content strategy if you haven't already, just so that you have as much of an opportunity to get indexed as possible. That should leave you in a good place for the future of search. That's kind of the world that we help our clients navigate, and I hope it was informative. Thank you.